live from Refiners Firearms with my friend Jonathan Bloom, the owner here of Refiners Firearms, and my buddy John Espy from SWAT Ministries, all the way in from Thailand.
Woo, Thailand.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's awake, but it's like, it's midnight. It's midnight at home, right?
It is.
So he's like, he just got in last night. So we're having fun today, and I wanted to just talk to you guys about how to pick a great gun store. Jonathan is my FFL, right? So
Absolutely.
when I have a gun transferred in, he's the guy who does it. And you notice this is a pretty small space here, so this isn't a large gun store, but being the largest doesn't necessarily mean you are the best. So here's a couple things. We got a couple people watching. I will say this: we're gonna do some stuff, Espy and I, John Espy later. But if you guys want to donate, any dollar you donate on Super Chat today goes to SWAT Ministries. And if you remember, SWAT Ministries rescues underage girls out of sex slavery the world over. So you do good work, bro. And I appreciate your heart. Does it in the name of Jesus, and that's amazing. I'm going to set this over here just a little bit so John's in the picture as well. So let's talk about what makes a good gun store and what makes for a crappy gun store, right? So we're not going to name no names, but so I'm gonna let the gun store owner talk about what makes a great gun store. So John, in your mind, what makes for a great gun store?
Well, I think that we do a very good job primarily because of the passion that we put into the process. We do our very, very best to make sure that every client, when they come in the door, that they feel welcomed, that we do a very thorough job of understanding what their needs are, and then we help them by equipping them with good information so that they can make the best decision on what to invest in firearms-wise, gear-wise, etc., that meets their budget and meets their ultimate purpose and needs for them and their family.
So I can't tell you the number of times I've stood in a gun store and listen to an employee behind the counter give somebody terrible advice. And that drives me nuts. Because, of course, you know, some things like, you know, you get a woman coming in for the first time who's never fired a gun and says, what should I buy for a concealed carry gun? Or what should I buy for a home defense gun? Oh, little lady, what you need is an airweight revolver.
Not very good
That's
idea.
terrible. If you want her to never want to shoot again, I don't even care if it's a big guy like me. That's not the first gun. That's an advanced gun. That's a very difficult gun to shoot. Or, you know, just the opposite. Somebody comes in and maybe this store has a particular stock of an item, and so they're pushing that gun instead of going, well, what do you need and what's it for?
Exactly right.
And so knowledgeable staff is incredibly important to me. And just because you work in a gun store doesn't mean you know guns. I know plenty of people that I've seen hired as sales clerks behind gun counters who didn't know anything about firearms whatsoever, but they did know sales or they did know retail. So asking the question about, so what kind of experience do you have? Are you a shooter? Are you into that? Now, of course, you and Dana, your wife and co-owner here, are maybe a little bit into concealed carry, little bit into all that stuff. And like, I mean, how many gun sight classes have you taken?
You know, I don't recall. I've lost track.
Too many.
I've got, I think, 10 or so.
I'm taking my first one next week.
Gun sight, and it's awesome. In my opinion, it's great training. I'm also a director member at Front Sight, and I do a lot of training locally with folks like John Correa at Active Self-Protection and other professional trainers.
So when you come in here and you say, why do you know things? Ask that employee, how much training have you had? How much are you into this? And what's your purpose too, right? Because I think the other part is that the cool part of a local gun shop like this. Now, again, you walk into a Walmart, you know, and they're going to have some guns behind the counter. The employees aren't going to know anything about them, and you shouldn't expect them to. But you go to a big box, a Cabela's, a Bass Pro Shop, whatever. You're going to have a big gun counter. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get somebody who is knowledgeable about firearms, though.
That's true.
And it doesn't mean that they are going to take the time for you, and they're going to try to be generalists. They're just stocking what sells, right? So their shelves are stocked by somebody who's looking at sales trends. But when you get a small shop like this, you can get into specialties. And I think that's valuable when you go, okay, wait a minute, my specialty is somebody that knows something. So like before we went on air, do you see back here? You can see these?
We've got some nice equipment.
So your two specialties, John, are high-end 1911s.
Yes.
And suppressors.
I love the 1911. I know that you've given me a lot of grief about the 1911 in general, but my first pistol was a Ruger SR 1911, and my first professional class as a student was at Gunsight Academy taking their 150 pistol class. And I just grew to love that pistol, and I love the 1911s, and I've grown to appreciate the higher end, more refined custom guns from some of the premium shops. And they're beautiful works of art. They function very, very well. They're very reliable, and I personally love them. And turns out that there's a national clientele that have a very similar perspective on
Sure.
beautiful quality 1911s.
For the record, I don't hate 1911s, okay? What I think, though, is I really like Tom Gibbons' approach to this, where he said when the 1911 was invented, manufacturing was expensive, but labor was cheap. And so every gun was handmade and hand fit. But today, labor is expensive, manufacturing is cheap. So you get this a 1911 for $400, $500, $600, and it's just not going to be hand fit. Now, instead, I mean, you know, you look, your entry level stuff here is
A less bear.
yeah, a less bear for an entry level gun for a couple $1,000s, you know.
And it's a great pistol. It is an amazing pistol.
Now you get up there from there, and you get a gun that's hand fit. You get a gun that has been worked over by a certified gunsmith, and therefore it's useful. But I will also say it's like driving a 65 Mustang, right? So like I drive a 2017 GT, and I just get in and start the car and go, right? You drive a 65 Pony, I think it's got a lot more character, but it also takes a lot more maintenance.
What I find is on the range, my gun is smooth. It's a roughly 3-pound, 3.5-pound trigger that I do a lot of training making sure that my trigger press is consistent and smooth. Now, one of the downsides with the 1911, as John has probably shared on his other videos, is I've got 8+1 magazine capacity, but I also have
A lot of practice reloading.
Spare magazines. And I'll tell you what, with training, you know, I'm smooth, and our students that come through our classes become very smooth at manipulating that 1911 and running it successfully.
So here's my point here, guys, is that a great gun shop, if you said, wait a minute, I love the 1911, and so I want to buy a 1911. You go into Bass Pro, and you're not going to get anybody necessarily knows anything. Instead, here, you get a guy who is passionate about the 1911 and knows all of them. And I mean, he's got a couple of them here, custom, you know, engraving and all that stuff, and beautiful works of art that are also functional. Same thing here. You gave me a little bit of knowledge about suppressors.
Oh, I
earlier.
love shooting suppressed. Once you shoot suppressed, it's really just an awesome experience. I love suppressors primarily from a home defense standpoint. If you're in your home and you have to use your firearm to defend yourself and your family, you know, when you press the trigger, it's going to be very, very, very loud. We have 6 children, so we have a lot going on in the house, and we want to make sure that not only are we responsive in our self-defense actions, but that we're safe in the process. And so putting a suppressor on your home defense gun, in my opinion, is a really, really good idea. And in addition to that, they're a lot of fun. They reduce felt recoil, especially when you're shooting rifle caliber guns with suppressed. It makes a big difference, and it reduces that really loud report and bang, roughly 30 to 35 dBs, depending on the suppressor and the size and what round you're shooting. And in my opinion, just a really neat approach. Now, the downside with suppressors is it is an NFA, National Firearms Act item. It's the same process to acquire one as it is to buy a full auto or a short barrel rifle or shotgun. But we have a different approach. We're a full service NFA dealer, which means that we handle all of the paperwork. We do fingerprinting for our clients, the passport photo. We do all of the mailing for the CLEO notification, which is for notifying local law enforcement. And we do obviously the mailings to the ATF, and it's all included in the price of the suppressor. So it is true full service. Most NFA dealers do not do that. There are only a few in Arizona, in Phoenix, that I'm aware of that have a similar approach as we do.
And you do conjugal visits.
Yes, that's the fun part. Because we do a lot of firearms training as well, helping our clients perfect their use of the tools that they get. We have access to the private ranges out at Ben Avery, and so every 4 to 6 weeks we rent a private range for our clients so that they can have fun. We call it the conjugal visit because unfortunately it takes roughly 10 to 14 months plus or minus right now for the ATF to review and approve your paperwork. But while you're waiting, you get to have fun out at the range with your family and friends shooting your suppressor at our events. And it really does help the time pass much quicker.
My favorite one, this guy here, this is a little Silencer Co. Omega 9K.
Great can.
On a Keltec Sub 2000. It's just so fun. I mean, it makes it quiet time, hearing safe. I love this suppressor. I haven't gotten into the suppressor game, but I'm telling you, when I do, it's not an if, it's when. I'm coming here because you get a guy who knows what he's talking about. So that to me is really the two things that are most valuable about a local gun store is number one, you get somebody with passion in your area. So yeah, okay, so if you're a 1911 lover or if you're a can lover, right, NFA lover, Refiners Firearms in Anthem, Arizona, they're fantastic. They can help you with all that knowledge. I will say as well, we don't have any financial relationship or anything like that. You ain't paid me for this, John?
No, I have not paid you for this.
Okay. There's no money involved. I get frustrated when somebody comes to a friend like this, gets all his knowledge, and then goes and ends around him and tries to save $20 on the internet.
And it does happen.
Pay the $20, for God's sake. He paid for the man's knowledge. And that's what it's valuable about. So a great gun store, knowledgeable employees, passion in your area, a willingness to educate, and they are not looking for selling what they might have on the wall. But one of the things I love about a great gun shop is I go, man, so given my needs, they go, well, this thing's here. I don't have any in stock. I can get one in for you.
Absolutely. We do that a lot. We have we are a boutique shop for sure. We're very different than most of the retail shops that you'll go into. We do our very best. We prefer to schedule appointments so that we give our clients one-on-one attention. And we do have our passions and specialties, but we do also stock all of the standard stuff. We have Glocks. We have Sig Sauers. We've got HKs, one of John's.
I was going to say, come on, we got to get to HKs. He's got VP9s down here.
And we also have a very good selection of rifles and AR pistol caliber carbines, etc. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have what you want in stock, we can usually get it for you very, very quickly.
I will say this, yes. I don't know if you can see it. When you walk in, this is a clue. When the top rifle appears in FN and the next one down is a Wilson Combat. Now, that tells me, okay, wait a minute, this guy's not trying to bust me out of Poverty Pony Anderson and just make $1 off me. This guy stocks good stuff. So, anyways, can't tell you enough, guys. Go to your local gun store. Invest in that time. You gotta spend a little bit of money for the knowledge. Go to somebody who knows what their stuff. This is my plug for my buddy John here at Refiners Firearms, especially if you're a 1911 lover or a suppressor lover. He's a great source for that. He's who I do all my FFL transfers through. And there's another part of this is I know I've seen some complaints about people paying for FFL transfers. I pay for FFL transfers because this lets me get a gun in from out of state, and somebody's got to deal with that, and to keep him in business, keep the lights on, keep the kids fed, right? John, you have said not 2 words, but I appreciate you hanging out with us this week.
I'm just a pretty Vanna White model in the back.
This is how bad Active Self-Protection Extra is. That is my pretty Vanna White model. God help us all. Yes. Guys, hope your day goes great. Go to a great local gun store. Don't just settle for walking in the door and do they have shiny guns. Find some place with knowledgeable people who are interested in you, people who will take the time to get you what you want and help you find the right thing instead of what they have for sale. My friend, I really appreciate the knowledge. Appreciate you.
Blessings. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, John.
Thank you, brother.